So how are you doing? How are you
Okay.
feeling?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Working every day and um, just uh living living my life, and yeah, enjoying being in this craft of creating. That's the end of the day, man. I'm ready to talk. This is the shop that I want to talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah,
is the
yeah.
shop that I want to talk. I want to talk shop of creating and working with others to create something new that the world has never seen before. You may have heard many stories, but you haven't seen this story, or you haven't heard this story, or this is how I saw this story,
Right,
or
right.
whatever. But I love this creation, man. You know, I love being around it. I didn't know this kind of world existed, man. I didn't know geeks such as myself, because I'll be the first to tell you, like, I took to improv like a fish to water, brother.
Uh-huh.
So improv led me to all of this, man.
So do
That,
you, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go
hmm
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say because I develop my shows through improv personally. But do you
Okay.
develop your shows that way? Do you type them up or do you do
Well,
both? Or
it took a long time for me to put something on a put something on paper. I could just like if something was inspiring me, I just did the story. I didn't
Mhm.
write anything down.
Yeah.
And now that, like writing a story isn't just for me, it's for the people in tech, or whatever like that, right? So now I'm dealing with that in so yeah, now I write the stories down, and it's cool for me as well because when I write, because I still handwrite, I don't type at the computer. I still write things down
I remember
with
that.
pens and pencils.
Yeah.
You know,
Got my
so
pen and pad right
see,
here.
see, see,
I'm old school. Yeah.
I'm old school, man, and um, so yeah, being able to create with folks, man, is what I truly love that part of, my job.
Wow. Well, you're really great at it. I mean, one of the highlights for me of this whole experience of being asked to curate this festival is discovering you in your work. That's like it's
Oh
been like one of
man.
it's just been
Uh
really one of the great one of the great pleasures for me and I'm so excited. I've never curated a festival before or whatever,
okay.
curated anything. And
Okay.
so I'm just sort of like, I'm just really excited to like, for people to come and experience your show, like that.
Oh
And for you to, and for you to be able to deliver to them, in this,
yeah.
lovely
And
theatrical
and
space.
I love that environment, I've been a part of that building right there at Marin Shakes since the conception of Returned Citizens.
Okay. So tell me about that. First of all, I just want to say, because I also was going to ask you to talk a little bit about Return Citizens and what the Return Citizen theater troupe is, because you're also, besides doing Jacky, one of your
Uh-huh.
solo shows as a
Uh-huh.
standalone, you're also going to be appearing with other performers in Return Citizens, correct?
Yeah, so we'll be performing there on the 14th of March.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of us will be telling um a what 10 to I mean a 15 to 20-minute story.
Great.
And I won't be doing Jackie. I'll be doing another story called Buck. And Buck was developed for Moth Radio.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and it was a story that um it was my first day out of prison. And I I told us that story of, my wife picking me up at the gate
Wow. Wow.
till, you know, um moving into our, she my wife bringing me home, stopping at the grocery store. I just was everywhere with it, and I told that story on Moth Radio at a main stage event. I had won the Story Slam, and I went on to the main stage, and I told that story, and that story got uh is like it's played on NPR. Like a lot of my neighbors will tell me, "Hey, I heard you on the radio the other day,"
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, "Wow."
I
And
just think
yes,
it's just so beautiful to me too, because you're talking about like like an incomprehensibly deep experience. You're talking about coming out of prison,
yeah,
day one, after being
uh-huh.
incarcerated for how long?
26 years.
And coming out and into your life, and with your wife, and it's just, it seems like the universe has been acting on you, has been putting stuff out, and now all of a sudden you're like being literally released, and you're out, you're free. But also now, in telling the story, you're inviting all of us in, and you're in control of it, and it's just something so beautiful to me and amazing about that journey, from
Yeah.
the experience to the story.
Okay, yeah, man. One of the things, thank you, man, because one of the things that I I noticed when I was in prison is that the people, they see these different stories of, the violence. They quick to show you how prison is like a place of, war. Yeah, yeah, that goes down. I'm not gonna say it doesn't, but what we hardly ever see is a lot of the humanity that's that's in there as well. There's a lot of men who honestly care for one another, you know what I'm saying, in a real humane type of way, like because it was like we were all we had, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if we didn't take care of each other or watch out for each other, or, hell, man, that could have been me.
Mm-hmm.
That could be me laying on that gurney, um, with so without someone as much as caring for it, you know what I'm saying? But I've seen men, go to one another's aid. If a guy like is having a seizure or something, someone would go to that man's aid and comfort him, like put a pillow under his head or something. We weren't trained nurses or anything, but our nature was, a lot of men had natures were carers, you know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
had a lot of caring people, and I just happened to care about the shit. One of my partners told me, like, man, if I ever go down on the ground, man, I'm gonna make sure I'm next to Ghost, because that motherfucker gonna care for you, man. He gonna make sure your head ain't gonna hit the ground.
Yeah.
And right, and it's like, um, yeah, and that's one thing I can say that I was very instrumental in playing a part of while I was incarcerated, man, was making sure that, someone got the help that they needed, man, or anything like that, I didn't play because he's a this or he's a that or he's a blood or he's a white dude or Hispanic. It didn't matter to me, man. That shit didn't matter. Yeah, everybody was in their own little segregated world in prison, because that's what it is, right? Everybody has their, own corner, so to speak.
Mhm.
And when it came to people's health, man, I didn't play that shit.
Mhm.
It's like, man, this could be any one of us. Right now, we're blue, you know. Right now, we're all motherfucking blue,
Yeah.
you know. And
but to me, what comes through, like your stories are, filled with love, filled with caring,
Mm,
and
thank
and,
you.
and of celebrating people discovering their ability to care and to be cared for. And to me, that's, in a way, that's maybe, like, to me, the best thing about humans is
Right?
that we care for each other, right? So,
Right?
and so, in a sense, the worst thing about humans is the separation and the categorization and the, like, I'm in this level, you're in that level, that sort of, that kind of stuff, the discrimination
Exactly.
and separation. And here you sort of are talking about dealing with it in just like the most basic form of, like, being, like, separated out, put in a corner, as you say, right? And then,
Yeah.
except
And
except no, except that you're all human, you're
we're
all
all
one, you're
human,
all one.
man.
Yeah.
We're all in a situation, it's kind of like there was a, oh, 1 second. 1 second.
Sure, take your time.
Hey, babe. Hey, babe. All right. Okay, I'm cool. I was getting a lot of feedback through the
Oh.
headset because I'm sitting right next to the heater and my wife just
Oh.
turned it on. And so I wanted to get rid of that, man. Anyway,
That, no, that could be a certain, yeah, it didn't come through to me at all. But
right, right.
yeah, but yeah, you were just start addressing, this thing about that we are all connected. We do care for each
Yeah,
other.
man, I remember a situation, man. Going, it was in 1996 and I was transferred from one prison down to a Southern California prison, Chino. And when I got there, I was just stuck in a day room and it was just like everybody, they didn't care. Like in in this type of prison, they didn't care who they put you on a bunk with. It could be a white, a black, or skinhead and a crip, a blood and a crip. Anybody could be
Mhm.
your bunk. And so they happened to put this young white dude on top of the bunk. And he was they was he was coming in from the street. Right? I mean, like right from the street, his parole agent just violated him. He just went from a living room to a prison system, right? He didn't go to
Right.
county jail or none of that shit. And when he violated him, this young man was so high. I mean, this dude was so high, and they just stuck him in a day room, and he was coming down off of heroin,
Whoa.
and they made him my bunkie. And I mean, this dude was going through it. I'd never seen anybody, and it was scaring the shit out of me more than anything
Sure.
because, for one, everybody's gonna be accused of a murder until further investigation because
Hmm.
they wouldn't want to admit that, they didn't give this man the proper care that he deserved, like
Hmm.
just isolating him in the medical facility or something while he was kicking off of this heroin. Nah, they just stuck him in a day room and he could have busted his head because he was really going through it, Josh. This man was really going through it. And they made him my bunkie. So the only thing I knew to do was to let him. I just, at back then I was pretty muscular and so I just picked this dude up off his bunk and just carried him to the shower, let him throw up shit, whatever he had to do, he did it in the shower. You know what I'm saying? That was the best help that I could give this man. You know what I'm saying? So after that, he threw up and I turned the shower on, rinsed him off. None of his, and everybody is looking at me like, why you helping that white boy, man? Why you helping that white boy?
Right.
Right? Because motherfucker, I don't want it to be me.
Hmm.
I don't ever want to let somebody, as you see his white boys over here, do you see any of these woods in here helping him?
Hmm.
Nah, they washed their hands with him. They wasn't finna help him. You see any Mexicans trying to help him? Nah, they were. Somebody got to help this man. I'm just happen to be black, homie.
Hmm.
Somebody
Yeah,
got to help this man.
but
And
that's.
afterward, yeah. So it's little shit like that, man, that I didn't, I like I said, man, anybody will tell you I didn't play in prison, man, about health.
Mhm.
If it was your health, man, I was trying to get you what you needed, man.
Yeah, but that that kind of caring that you display, that you still display. I mean, it's just. I think we can all sometimes forget about it in ourselves sometimes, or question it in
Uh,
ourselves when we feel afraid or different. You know, uh, that and that's a lot of what's going on to me in the politics right now is of trying to
right?
make us feel scared of the others, that they're coming to get us, and to make us forget or suppress the natural feeling that no, we're all connected, we're all connected, we
It's like,
naturally care for each other.
why in this time would I need to feel, why in this time am I feeling like our politics, our democracy, everything has went to hell in a handbasket? This dude that we call the commander in chief is like, I don't understand how they let a snack food run the country. This motherfucker look like a real Cheeto. He look
No,
like a real one. And
misshapen
he,
Cheeto. Yeah.
right, right. And and at the same time, man, he is he's yeah. I looked at that fucking Hitler documentary, man, and I
Mm-hmm.
swear this dude is doing the exact same thing, man. Nobody wants to see it, but I mean, I guess some people are seeing it. But what do
Yeah.
we do? You know?
Yeah, well, what we do is we protest, we organize, we fight, we love each other, and we also
Right?
we share stories. We share
Right?
stories
That's
that
what we
like,
do. This
and
is what
like
we do.
watching, like when people come to see Jacky, come see your show, Jacky, you're just reminded of just how beautiful the human being can be, even in a brutalized situation, you know, and
Hmm.
also it's you feel your kinship. I feel the kinship with you as the storyteller because you're such a beautiful storyteller, but also with everyone else as well,
Yeah.
like suddenly everyone around me, like I'm feeling the connection in this really warm and kind of gentle way, and it's because you're holding us in this story in which you and others are struggling in a world that's trying to separate you and diminish you, but instead what you're doing is asserting your humanity, uh,
Yeah.
and it's also just, you can be you're really funny. It's like you just really, I mean, you do characters so well. I don't really, like in my stuff I just sort of tend to be me, but it's like, man, you just go like, I mean, you're such a gifted storyteller. It's just
Thank
really,
you, man.
it's pleasurable. No, when I first started watching, I mean, I was just watching a video. I'm looking forward to seeing it live of Jacky, but you began, and I just was there, like you had me, like, like, oh, I'm in good hands. I'm in good hands here. I want to keep going as long as he wants to keep going, you know. And it's also, but the shape is also really of this story is really beautiful. I don't know if you wanted to say anything here about just sort of the storyline of Jacky, or you don't
What
have to.
like like well, you know, I I wanted to do Jackie. Well, I was inspired to do Jackie from a friend of mine. I was At that time I was talking to a friend of mine down in LA, and I was telling him I was getting ready to do Train Story with Wayne Harris. And we were at the marsh, right? And my friends down in LA, they know nothing of this world, right? They know
Wow. Yeah.
nothing of this. It's kind of like so I'm explaining to them that, I'm doing solo shows, right? And they're like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, it's a solo show. I might do like 6 or 7 characters or 20 characters or
Right.
whatever it might be, man. He's like, ah, he's like, well, you should tell them, about Jacky, man. And, you should tell them the story about Jacky. I was like, he was like, cause if your ass didn't get angry and rally the yard, man, that shit, and he inspired me, right? And so I
Yeah.
was like, all right, man, all right, you know, and I told it to Wayne. I told, Wayne a little bit about it, and Wayne said, "Oh yeah, you should formulate that, man." And so
Hmm.
I went to work on Jackie while I was working with Wayne on Train Story or
Uh-huh.
performing Train Story with Wayne.
It's just got, it's got a beautiful shape to it, to the story, and the Jackie character himself is,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
really
like,
special.
and when I first met Jackie, like I said, it was at DVI, and immediately this dude, like he said, he caught my ears because of the way he was talking at the domino table
Uh-huh.
and all the shit that he was talking, and he had everyone laughing. No one was angry. Everyone was laughing, and even the guys playing dominoes were like, "Oh, Jackie, man, come on, why you?" And he was the life of the party. I mean, right there, on a prison yard, he had us all laughing, and he had you thinking, about shit, um in his own way. You know what I'm saying? And when he told me he was gonna get his family to come up in the prison and play music, man, I'm like, come on, man. Hey, hell you think you is, man?
Yeah.
And and it's like for real, his family came inside the prison and played music and had a concert, and I was just like, oh man, I couldn't believe it, you know?
Yeah.
And it was things like, it was moments like that in prison that, you know, because as a lifer, as someone who's sentenced to 26 years to life, um, at that time, in my prison sentence, which was in the very beginning there, I didn't think I was ever getting out. I thought that that would be my my last place of on earth to breathe my last breath. You know what I'm saying? Um, Here I was, and I didn't ever think I would get out of DVI, you
What is
know,
TBI?
the dual vocational institution.
Okay.
It was, uh, it had its reputation of being the gladiator school
Oh,
because
geez.
of because of, there was just a lot of gangs there, and in the gangs there was always somebody politicking for one thing or another. There was always some kind of violence for one thing or another. So it had its reputation of being a gladiator school for a reason, and um,
Terrifying. What gives you resilience and hope? How do you move forward, like in a time like that? I just can't imagine how hard that must be.
well, well, Josh, I mean, it's like I'm not gonna use the old cliche, life gives us lemons and we make lemonade. I- Basically, man, life gives us lemons and we gotta make some lemonade. And it's like you have to find, you have to, you have to find your resilience. You have to find your need. I mean, even though I had the thought that, I would, this is where I would die, you know, um, I still continued to go to work. I still continued to try and, educate myself as best as I could. You know what I'm saying? I still try to, you know, feel some sort of like a glimmer, some small section of hope. But the reality was I was in a I was in a four I was in a 4x8 cell or something like that, and that was the reality, you know. That was the reality of my life at that point. So, and I just, and to be in prison during the 89 earthquake, and I saw what the cops did. Everybody saw what the cops did. They ran out of the motherfucking building and left our asses in there to die. All right. So, yeah, man, the reality of it was that, yeah, man, they ain't got no problem leaving your ass in here to die. If the building was gonna crumble, your ass wasn't coming from up under all that steel and concrete, 'cause that building shook, and it shook hard. I saw the tear go like this. It shook hard, you know, and yeah, so that was the reality of prison. Like I realized I was just a number. Nobody cares about a number. Numbers aren't valuable unless you're talking monetary gain. You know what I mean? Other than that, nobody gives a fuck about the number.
Yeah,
You know? So
capitalism.
the number, right? And so we just would have been lost stock at that point. And that what it's kind of like, isn't that what people do if they gotta chalk it up? A rancher gets famine, all his cattle go, you gotta chalk it up to the game, right? So same thing with prisoners.
But
One
each
go,
one of you is a miracle. That's the thing, and each one of you is a fully miraculous human being, and somehow you're able to hold on to that within
you
yourself, but
know,
also from the strength from each other.
I believe that because when, I learned a lot from a lot of people. It's like I have a lot of people who educated me on one thing or another or something, and they all weren't black dudes, and they all weren't, gang affiliated. You know what I mean? I learned a lot of stuff from a lot of different people who, I mean, just little survival skills of prison, like Greg Powell. That name might not mean anything to you right now, but I'll say his name and you'll say, "Oh my God, yeah, I remember that. The onion field killer."
Oh, okay. Never
Yeah,
heard of it.
so right, 1960 something, he caught a case with a friend and they killed the cop. Uh So this, and they tried to bury him in the Bakersfield onion fields or something, or it happened there or something. I don't know. But
Yeah.
anyway, this dude, we were down on an alarm on the ground, and I was sitting next to that dude, and he reached in his back pocket and just pulled out a book, and he told me, he said, "Hey, youngster, you might want to always keep something in your back pocket to read. Because when these alarms go down, you're gonna need something to entertain you for a while." And so
Yeah.
from then on, I kept a I kept a little the little prison Bible in my back pocket. Always, always through my whole sentence. I may have looked at it only a few times, but when the alarm went down and We didn't have, you could put your back up against the wall. I would read a few verses and keep on pushing, man.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
I think,
So,
one of the things that can be so great with really wonderful stories like yours is that I'm introduced through your storytelling to remarkable people that I will never get to meet, that I would
oh
never,
man.
and I get to celebrate them and to feel wonder at their, magnificence, and at their humanity,
Right, right.
and it does something to me too, just in sort of about sort of like sometimes you wonder like what is this life for,
Well,
and it's like and then
yeah,
it's about being connected to other people and caring, being cared for, I think.
I, uh, I share that same thought, man, because like I said, man, there were two things. If one, if you could cook, I didn't give a fuck. If you could cook in prison and you made something that nobody else was making, yeah, I was coming to your spot and ask you how can we make a deal, man? Um, um, so I had this little Vietnamese dude. He used to always cook. Always. He would always be bent over his little hot pot cooking something. He got something stirring and frying. He got, and I asked him, I'm like, man, that shit. I told him, I said, man, that shit stank. He was like, yeah, I know. And I said, but what the hell is it? He said it's dragonfish. I was like, dragonfish. He was like, yeah, and when they cooked this, man, I mean, bruh, it had the building stinking, whatever. So,
Fish,
but
right?
I still took my bowl to him and I said, look, man, something that's stanky, I got to try it, man. I
Brave.
said, something that's stanky, I got to try it. If all y'all sitting around eating it and damn near want to fight about it, put some in my bowl, man. Let me see. So he gave me a small piece and yeah, it was worth the fight, man. That was
Wow.
some of the, that was a great little tasting canned fish. I don't know how it was prepared, but I threw my every time they would cook it, I started getting bigger bowls.
More dragonfish, yeah.
Yeah. And I would tell my wife what to like we could get quarterly packages back then in prison. And your family could send you up to a 30-pound package.
Uh-huh.
Of little personal items that, and so these guys, this is how this dragonfish would come into the prison.
Mm.
They would get it through their quarterly packages. So I started having my wife send me some dragonfish, and I would take my cans of dragonfish to that dude and have him cook us up some dragonfish. And that's how I became me and he, that's how he and I became friends.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And we brought together by a super stinky fish,
Super
right?
stinky ass fish.
Yeah, yeah. But wow. No, that's beautiful. And I don't know. It's really you just kept finding things. You just kept finding things to connect with other people, with their health, with their food, with whatever they were about. You found the commonality, and that drew you.
And I I totally gotta say yes to that. And another thing that, drew me to others was art.
Mm.
Oh man. Like I saw some of the baddest dudes. You know what I'm saying, man? Some shit that I would never see. I haven't yet to see out here where The art that was like some of the art that was created, I just like blew my mind, man. I saw a dude get he had a portrait done of himself, and the guy did this full body portrait, and what he added to the portrait was some angel wings to this dude. And it was a portrait of this dude kneeled down on one knee in a prison yard with angel wings. Right? That just kind of fucked me up. I was like, I was always so, that was a cool shot. And it was a real like the dude it was like a poster. And so the dude
Mm-hmm.
was able to mail it home to his wife and
Yeah.
she loved it. It
Oh,
was
sure.
nice. Yeah. So uh it was things like that. The artwork. I still have some of the guys. I still have some prison artwork of things that I liked, and I still have to this day. I had a partner named Maniac.
All
He
right.
uh he would he was the baddest cartoonist I ever met in my life. To this day, I've yet to see no one who can like this dude would see something. He would take a draw a pencil and give it character. He would
Yeah.
give the pencil arms and a mouth and give it some verbiage.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
I don't know
damn
how
man,
people do that. That's like
how do
magic.
you do that shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But his shit was magical to me, man. And like I said, to this day, I still have his artwork.
Yeah. The thing is that you're seeing, I mean, the the prisoner who did the portrait of the other prisoner and put angel wings on him,
Hmm.
right? He saw the subject was seen. He was seen, and he was seen not just as some sort of object or something to be dismissed, but he was actually seen in his divinity, and that
Right,
was expressed. And I just think that's I wish everyone got to be seen with their divinity all the time.
right,
But it's just but the power of artists and of human beings to perceive that when the whole situation is trying to take that away is just it's amazing to me. It's mind-blowing.
right. And this dude was, a lot of the people I met just were um a lot were they were different and a lot of people weren't. I guess the whole thing is that motherfucker I said don't fuck with me. Nah, dudes wasn't like that. It was more like dudes would welcome you into the dorms or whatever, welcome you onto a yard and yeah, there was the real dudes that was like, I mean, not to say that any other dudes wasn't real, but the guys who were with that kind of business of like, yeah, homie, we mean business over here. So if you hang out on this side of the yard, that mean you with the shit. You with the violence, you with knocking down motherfuckers and all that. So not to say I didn't hang out on that side of the yard, but I kept myself at in a spot where, man, I don't ever want to have to put hands on nobody. You know what I mean? I don't want to have injure anybody while in here. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you can't avoid it. Sometimes you can't avoid that shit.
But
And,
it seems like a superpower to me to be treated as a number, to be treated as someone who could just be left and the whole building falls down on you in an earthquake. To be
hmm
treated that way, but not to be that way. You know, it's
right.
just like it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. I at the time I never I never thought when, here I am in an 89 earthquake. in a cell getting ready to watch the motherfucking World Series. And I never thought for one iota that I would be telling this story, this many years later, right? I never thought
How
that
could
it
you?
would, right? And it's kind of like I remember the first time I told this story on stage, and one of it was a talk back afterwards, and one of the audience members said to me, I remember that '89 earthquake. She said, but not one time did I think about what was happening inside the prisons during that earthquake. And she said, in 9/11, I didn't think about what inmates. She said, you just brought a different perspective,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know? And I think that was about one of the things about storytelling is because when the media, because back at some point, I forget which governor, one of the governors banned the media from coming inside of prisons. And because they didn't want them to see all the shenanigans that were
Mm.
being played. They always use the fact that, or use the statement that they didn't want the inmates to campaign for their freedom and by getting on the media campaigning for your freedom. So that's why they kept the media out of prison. But at some point, Ted Koppel got to come back inside I think he was one of the first. No, I take that back. Geraldo Rivera, but he was like, you know, Geraldo. He came in and he interviewed Charles Manson,
Hmm.
and that was the funniest interview. It wasn't a serious. So everybody, when you see a person like Charles Manson on TV, and here I am in prison, in the same prison where Charles Manson is, he's in the hole. I'm on the main line, but and it's kind of like this dude. Um, this was at San Quentin, and this guy. When you see this little man being escorted across the yard, you're like, how in the fuck was everybody afraid of that little dude? Uh, but he carried some kind of weight, some kind of power, some kind of something, right? So, um, that's the kind of shit that, the public was eating up. Like, everybody's like fucking Charles Manson in there. Nah, man. A lot of motherfuckers up in here don't even like that dude, man. Don't even want nothing to do with that dude, man. You know, um, but there was also, like a lot of things that were happening inside of the prison system that the system didn't want people to see. They didn't want people to see the health care. They didn't want people to see the true living conditions of living on a triple bunk. They didn't want people to know that, they didn't give a fuck about health care one way or another, whether you lived or died. They didn't want people to know that outbreaks of, TB and chicken pox and all that shit was alive and kicking in prison, all that shit. In those closed quarters, that shit was alive and kicking. So that's why it's important that we tell our stories, those of us who are, you know, still alive and kicking to tell your version of a prison story from your time in there. It's like I went in prison when I was 19. I got to San Quentin when I was 19 years old. And at that time, San Quentin was considered a level 4 period. It had a 6 a.m. unlock and a 2:30 lockup. By 2:30, everybody was off the yard and back in your cell. And that was it for the day, and you went to work. If you went to work, you may have stayed at work until maybe you would do 10-hour shifts,
Hmm.
and you're off for 3 days.
Hmm.
And you were working for, at that time, if you were working in the prison industry, you were working for a minimum of 25 cent up to 90 cent an hour. And um so just to give you a little background on that, whenever you go to the DMV
Uh,
and those chairs you're sitting in the DMV,
yeah.
I may have welded them.
Oh,
I
wow.
may I may have put those chairs together. That road sign you see on the freeway,
Uh-huh.
next exit,
Uh-huh.
I may have I may have welded the post that holds it.
Well, thank
Um
you.
if
That's beautiful.
when you're in at when you're at a, like, well, local high school or universities, state universities, right? That furniture that goes into those state universities, such as that single person desk, I
Hmm.
may have welded that desk.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were doing a lot of that shit, man. We were like, yeah, we were building all the state furniture, the teachers' desks. I mean, everything, everything. We were doing it for under $1.
It's just so outrageous. It's just, I
We
can't even, you
we
know.
were doing that work for under $1. And
That's crazy.
if um
Insane.
and if you were a tier tender porter or whatever, you were doing that job for under 15 cents. You was doing that job for 12 cents an hour. The lowest pay was 9 cents an hour. You would clean the building, mop
Oh,
the floors,
oh man.
clean the toilets.
Oh man.
So yeah, so the economics of the joint, and you would be paid once a month. Once a month, your coins add up. You can go to the store and buy yourself a little rolled up bag of Tootsie Rolls or some shit, you know. So yeah, man.
It's
The
just,
health system, the prison, the food, all that shit, man. It's kind of like I watched when I first got to San Quentin. I remember one guy having, you know, needing insulin.
mm,
I remember one guy, and it was like he would have to go to the infirmary and then talk to some, to go get an insulin shot, right?
right.
And by the time I left prison, they had they would have like separate medical calls, like in the evening and in the morning. They would have separate medical calls. One call would be, you know, go pick up your morning meds,
Mm,
and the second call would be all diabetics,
mm,
insulin is available, whatever, they
right.
would stand in line. So, and I'm saying that to say the more the system, as time went on, the system got more and more overcrowded, right? And the food in prison went totally down.
Mm,
I mean, it was more processed, it was more what do you call that shit? Soy type of products, and it was like steroid chickens. The
oh,
prison grew its own chickens, it grew its own, and so you could watch a baby chick the size of my watch hatch out today, and tomorrow that motherfucking be looking like this bottle.
something unnatural has happened. Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
I mean, they had no problems pumping the hormones to those little chickies or
Well, considering
whatever,
how they treat human beings, like it's
right?
not
I mean, so,
surprising that they treat chickens that way.
it's like Josh, if I sat down and I wrote everything that I remember about prison as fucked up, or even like there was even cool times, I mean, whoever finds a cool time in prison, well, sometimes there was like a moment where you could like, shit, have a good day.
Hmm.
You wouldn't I wouldn't trade none of those days for any of the worst days I've seen out here. I would love to have whatever days I'm seeing out here because it's way better. I'm
Hmm.
just saying that, you know, something or another struck a chord with someone, that I
Hmm.
remember seeing a magic show in prison at one
Wow,
point,
wow, wow.
right? And and I was still we sitting in the audience, and I'm like the ooh we do, ooh he did that, oh man, let me see, I'm that dude, right? And everybody standing around like sitting around like, and by the end of it, there was more, oh man, I wonder
Yeah.
how and so it was. Yeah, there was always something to, even listening to outside speakers come in, people from the street. And, the guys, we were more amazed by someone else's stories than anything else. It's you know, like if you went inside a prison as a storyteller, dudes would flock to you like a motherfucker, man. Like, well, oh, Josh, oh man, I mean, because they want to know and they want to know how it is that the life that you're living, because
Sure,
people are always looking for a new avenue to walk down, man.
sure.
Because because them old boulevards they've been on ain't paying off no more.
No, and stories like people who are great storytellers like you, they show us those other ways. They show us ways in ourselves that maybe we didn't even know about. And
And
and to come out of those experiences and be able to describe with such love and care and sometimes even great humor, be able to describe it now. I mean, what a wonderful thing to do. Like I'm just so excited. I'm so excited you're
man,
doing what you're doing. I'm so excited that you're coming to the One for All festival.
well, I'm
Is
I'm excited, Josh, that you know that you have uh invited me into being a part of this, man, and I really appreciate it, and man, I just, you know, like I said, in that space, so I'm really like playing at home, you
right. You
know.
said you said that you go way back in that space, right?
Yeah, so I've been there, like I said, so as a returned citizen, uh, we got, returned Leslie Courier and her husband and Soraya, and they got together and they wanted to have this kind of a forum. And I got in contact with Soraya. I didn't know him while in prison. A friend of mine said, "Hey man, you should talk to these folks over here."
Mm.
So, Marin Shakes, man. And then when he told me, I was like, "Man, I don't know nothing about no Shakespeare." And he was like, "Well, you should. You should,
Yeah.
you should go
Yeah.
talk to him." So I did. I talked, and Soraya and I hit it off real cool, man. And I've been with them ever since, So in the conception of the returned citizens, I was a returned citizen before I was a FIPper. So I'm also with the FIP, and I was there during its conception as well. So
Yeah. Well,
so
it's
yeah,
really
well,
beautiful that sort of that you're so much a part of the history of the theater as well. That
yeah,
it's just it's glorious. And
yeah.
and thank you for I don't know. Thank you for taking some time to talk with me about this stuff. It's just
Oh yeah, man, for sure, bro. You know, I
really
ain't got no
appreciate
problem with that, Josh. We can, man, we don't even have to be all formal with this shit, man. You can hit a
it.
motherfucker up and let me know, like, hey, look, Tony, I want to holler at you for a minute. I got something I want to run by you. I want you to run something by me. Man, holler at your boy, man. Don't feel like, yeah,
Absolutely
holler
take
at your
you up on
boy, man.
that.
Yeah, holler at your boy, man.
Yeah.
I'll fuck with you like that, Josh, on the real.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that for sure, and then also to seeing you when you come to the festival. Just looking forward to it. Be well. Have a
Yeah,
great time
you
till
too, my
then.
brother.
Yeah, and we'll stay in touch.
All right, for sure, man. You have a great evening, Josh.
Take care, Tony. Bye
All
now.
right. Bye.